We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet to share these conversations on the Vegan Compass podcast.
We extend our respect to elders past and present, as well as any of our listeners and guests. Hello and welcome to the Vegan Compass podcast, unveiling truths, inspiring change. We are your hosts, Ric and Mackenzie Cross.
From wherever you're listening, please be sure to like and subscribe to support this podcast. Now to the episode.
Welcome to the news of the week on the Vegan Compass podcast, where we navigate the highs and lows in animal rights news and advocacy. I'm Ric Allport.
And I'm Mackenzie Cross. Together, we'll bring you the stories that matter. Some will leave you outraged, others inspired, but all of them serve as reminders of why we fight for justice for all sentient beings.
This week, we've got a packed lineup. We talk about a major shake-up at the RSPCA in the United Kingdom, horrifying cases of animal abuse involving school students, and even a kangaroo spotted in a very unexpected place, in Texas, of all places.
On a brighter note, we'll celebrate Portugal's groundbreaking decision for animals, explore the latest developments in vegan protein, and look ahead to Veganuary 2025, which is shaping up to be bigger and better than ever.
It's a roller coaster of emotions, but that's the reality of working toward animal liberation. So let's dive in, starting with some horrifying news from schools in New South Wales. This week, two deeply disturbing incidents of animal abuse in New South Wales have brought to light not only the horrific acts of cruelty, but also the troubling reality of how animals are used in educational settings. At Corrimal High School, 29 chickens were brutally killed in their enclosure, and at Murrumburra High School, 2 ducks were tortured and killed. While the violence itself is appalling, these tragedies also expose a deeper issue: the inherent hypocrisy of animal agriculture programs in schools.
That's right, Ric. These programs often aim to teach responsibility, compassion, and the value of hard work by having students care for animals. Students form meaningful bonds with these animals, describing them as friends and part of their daily lives. At Corrimal High, students spoke passionately about their connection to the chickens, describing how they would run up to them at the end of the day like best friends. And at Murrumburra High, the ducks were integral to the school's community. Yet the unspoken reality is that many animals in these programs are eventually destined for slaughter.
It's such a cruel contradiction, Mackenzie. On one hand, these programs encourage students to nurture and care for animals, teaching them empathy and responsibility. But on the other hand, they perpetuate a system that commodifies these same animals, reducing them to products to be used and disposed of.
And when violence like this occurs, it's easy to blame the perpetrators alone. But we need to ask the larger question: why are these animals in situations like this in the first place? Why are schools, places meant to teach respect and compassion, participating in systems that normalize the exploitation and eventual killing of animals?
It's a betrayal of trust, both for the students and the animals. We need to rethink animals used in education. Imagine programs where students learn to respect animals as sentient beings, where the focus is on coexistence and empathy, rather than commodification and slaughter. That's the kind of education that builds a truly compassionate society.
Our hearts go out to the students and staff at both Corrimal and Murrumburra High Schools as they cope with these traumatic events. But let's use these tragedies as a wake-up call. It's time to question the systems that allow these contradictions to exist in the first place.
These tragedies make it clear it's time to bring vegan education into schools. We need to replace programs that exploit animals with ones that teach students about empathy, coexistence, and the benefits of vegan living for the animals, the environment, and future generations.
Only by educating students about the value of all sentient beings can we create a future where these contradictions no longer exist and schools truly become places of compassion and learning.
Our next story focuses on the RSPCA in the United Kingdom, an organisation that claims to protect animals but has come under heavy criticism this week after horrifying footage was released showing systematic cruelty at slaughterhouses approved under the RSPCA assured scheme.
For vegans, this kind of cruelty is common knowledge, but for consumers of animal products, this is a damning report. The footage, collected by Animal Rising, shows shocking abuses like pigs being improperly stunned, cows prodded with electric goads, and animals panicking as they witnessed others being slaughtered in front of them.
It's beyond distressing. This isn't a small oversight or an isolated incident. It's systematic cruelty. The RSPCA says it's taking urgent action, but how many times have we heard that before?
Exactly. Even Chris Packham, a wildlife presenter and former RSPCA president, and Caroline Lucas, the former Green Party MP, have had enough. Both resigned this week, citing the charity's failure to address these issues despite years of internal campaigning.
Packham called the RSPCA assured scheme a millstone around the charity's neck and accused the organisation of propping up the meat industry rather than protecting animals. It's a stark reminder that the RSPCA is, at its core, still part of a system that condones the killing of animals.
And that's the crux of the issue, isn't it, Rick? The RSPCA primarily focuses on companion animals, dogs, cats, and the like. But when it comes to farmed animals, they seem more interested in appeasing the animal agriculture industry than challenging them.
It's infuriating. While they're patting themselves on the back for marginally better conditions, animals are still being sent to slaughter. Let's not forget, there's no such thing as humane slaughter.
The RSPCA argues that they're the only organisation monitoring farmed animal welfare on this scale, but that doesn't excuse them from allowing such atrocities to continue. If anything, it makes their failure even more glaring.
And this isn't just about the RSPCA, Mackenzie. It's about the public being misled. The RSPCA assured logo gives people the false impression that they're making an ethical choice, when in reality, they're supporting a system of cruelty.
Chris Packham said it best. The RSPCA has lost sight of its mandate to protect all animals from cruelty and suffering. It's time for them and all of us to reevaluate what animal welfare truly means.
True animal protection doesn't stop at better conditions. It means ending the exploitation of animals altogether. Until organisations like the RSPCA align with that vision, they'll continue to be complicit in these tragedies. Now for some encouraging news in the fight against greyhound racing. The Crayford Greyhound Track in Dartford, Kent, England, will officially close after this Christmas season, marking an end to nearly 4 decades of animal suffering at this venue.
This is such a huge win, Rick. The closure comes as a result of dwindling support for greyhound racing, with fewer trainers participating, lower attendance at events, and ultimately the unsustainable nature of this outdated industry.
Ladbroke, the owners of the track, said they've been trying to avoid this decision for some time, but frankly, it's a sign of the times. Public sentiment is shifting. People are no longer willing to support a so-called sport that relies on the exploitation of greyhounds.
And it's not just Crayford. This closure is part of a broader trend in the UK. Over the years, we've seen iconic tracks like Henlow, Wimbledon, and Peterborough shut down for good. Activists and local groups have been instrumental in making this happen, raising awareness about the cruelty inherent in this industry.
Absolutely. Behind every track closure are hours of protests, campaigns, and tireless advocacy by animal rights groups. They've kept the pressure on, and it's finally paying off.
Society is waking up to the fact that animals aren't here for our entertainment, and industries like this are struggling to stay afloat.
It's bittersweet, though. While we celebrate the closure, we can't forget about the greyhounds who suffered at Crayford and other tracks for decades. They deserve justice, and the best way we can honour them is to keep pushing for an end to greyhound racing everywhere.
Exactly. This closure is a victory, but it's also a reminder of why we do what we do. The fight isn't over until all greyhound racing tracks are closed and every dog is free from exploitation. Now, this next story made me laugh out loud. The beef industry just had a classic case of oops. A study they funded to prove the supposed superiority of animal protein over plant protein ended up doing the exact opposite. The results? Plant-based proteins are just as effective as meat when it comes to building and maintaining muscle.
That's right, Mackenzie. They set out to show that beef was the gold standard of protein, but instead they handed the plant-based movement a massive win. This study, published in the Journal of Nutrition, compared groups consuming beef, complementary plant proteins like beans and bread, and even incomplete plant proteins. And guess what? There were no significant differences in muscle protein synthesis.
This completely debunks one of the biggest myths about plant-based diets, that they can't provide the same quality of protein as meat. It turns out, whether your protein comes from beans or beef, your muscles don't care.
And let's be honest, Mackenzie, this isn't the first time science has shown the power of plants. But having the beef industry inadvertently bolster the argument is absolutely priceless. It's like they wrote their own punchline.
It's not just about muscle either. Plant-based diets come with a whole host of other benefits, from better heart health to reduced risk of chronic diseases like diabetes. Plus, they're kinder to the planet and, of course, to the animals.
This study also adds to the growing body of evidence that plant-based diets are perfectly suited for athletes. A Cambridge University review even found that vegan and vegetarian athletes matched or outperformed their meat-eating counterparts in endurance and strength-based performance.
So whether you're lifting weights, training for a marathon, or just trying to stay healthy, plants can more than keep up. And for anyone still clinging to outdated ideas about protein, we can now say with confidence, even the beef industry agrees, plant proteins are a powerhouse.
Our next story takes us to Texas, where a kangaroo named Rowdy escaped from a private enclosure and is now on the loose. While this might sound like an odd or even amusing situation, it highlights a much darker issue: the cruelty of keeping wild animals like kangaroos as pets.
Kangaroos are, of course, native to Australia, not Texas. They belong in the open spaces of their natural environment, not confined to someone's backyard. Taking them out of their habitat is not only harmful to the animals, but also deeply irresponsible.
Absolutely, Mackenzie. Kangaroos are highly social, free-ranging animals adapted to the unique ecosystems of Australia. Forcing them into captivity in a completely foreign environment robs them of their natural behaviours and well-being. It's a form of cruelty disguised as care.
To Rowdy's owner, we understand that you care deeply for him, but the best way to show love for kangaroos is to advocate for their protection in the wild, not to bring them into captivity. This kangaroo is now lost, scared, and completely out of his element.
It's also dangerous. Kangaroos have specific dietary, environmental, and social needs that can't be met in a domesticated setting. On top of that, incidents like this show how easily wild animals can escape and end up in unfamiliar and potentially hazardous situations.
And this isn't just about one family in Texas. The exotic pet trade is a global issue, perpetuated by people's desire to own unique animals. It's time we recognize that wild animals are not here to serve our whims. They're sentient beings with their own needs and rights.
Kangaroos are iconic symbols of Australia's wildlife. They deserve to hop freely across their native lands, not be kept in enclosures halfway around the world. This situation underscores why we need stronger protections for wild animals, both in their native habitats and against being trafficked or kept as pets.
Wild animals belong in the wild, not in our homes or backyards. Let's focus on protecting their natural habitats and respecting their right to live free. Here is an uplifting story from Europe, Ric. Portugal has committed to creating a national plant-based strategy as part of its climate action plan. This is a monumental step for animals, the planet, and public health.
It really is, Mackenzie. Portugal, already considered one of the most vegan-friendly countries in the world, is doubling down on its commitment to sustainability by actively promoting plant-based eating. This strategy isn't just about cutting emissions. It's about transforming the food system to be healthier, more ethical, and more sustainable.
The plan includes measures like increasing the production and consumption of plant proteins, especially legumes, reducing food waste, and offering more plant-based meals in public institutions like schools and hospitals. It's an integrated approach designed to tackle agricultural emissions and food security at the same time.
And it couldn't come at a better time. Agriculture accounts for 12% of Portugal's greenhouse gas emissions, with livestock being the biggest contributor. By shifting the focus toward plant-based diets, Portugal is directly addressing the environmental impact of meat and dairy production.
What's particularly exciting is the cultural significance of legumes in Portuguese cuisine. They're not only nutritious and sustainable, but also deeply rooted in the country's food traditions. This strategy shows that plant-based eating doesn't have to mean abandoning cultural identity. It can actually enhance it.
Exactly, Mackenzie. And let's not forget the public health benefits. Portugal, like many countries, is grappling with diet-related health issues. Promoting plant-based foods could lead to a healthier population while reducing the strain on healthcare systems.
It's also worth noting that this breakthrough is the result of years of advocacy by groups like Pro-Veg Portugal, which worked tirelessly to get this strategy included in the National Climate and Energy Plan. It's a powerful example of how activism and collaboration with policymakers can lead to real change.
Portugal's move could set a precedent for other countries, with nations like Denmark and South Korea already adopting government-backed plant-based strategies. This could be the start of a broader shift across Europe and beyond.
The world is changing, one bold step at a time. Let's turn to the United States, where exciting progress is being made in the realm of nutrition policy. For the first time ever, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee has recommended that the nation's dietary guidelines prioritize plant-based proteins over animal-based ones.
This is a big deal, Mackenzie. The dietary guidelines in the US influence everything from school lunches to public health campaigns. Shifting the focus to plant-based proteins could have a huge impact on public health, the environment, and of course, animals.
The committee's report emphasizes the health benefits of plant proteins like beans, lentils, and peas. It also recommends replacing red and processed meats with healthier options, which could save hundreds of thousands of lives each year by preventing diet-related diseases.
Another significant recommendation is reordering the protein food group to highlight plant-based options first. This isn't just a symbolic change. It's a way of showing that plant proteins aren't just an alternative, they're a better choice for health and sustainability.
And it doesn't have to stop there. The committee also recommends making water the primary beverage of choice instead of cow's milk. This is especially important for people of colour, many of whom suffer from lactose intolerance.
It's about time, Mackenzie. For years, the guidelines have pushed dairy as a nutritional staple, ignoring not only its health risks, but also its environmental and ethical costs. Prioritizing water and plant-based drinks is a win for everyone.
These recommendations align with growing evidence about the health benefits of plant-based diets as well as their role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. With agriculture being a major contributor to climate change, shifting dietary habits is a critical piece of the puzzle.
The current guidelines, which still promote 3 servings of dairy per day, are outdated and heavily influenced by the meat and dairy industries. If these new recommendations are adopted for the 2025-2030 guidelines, it could signal a major shift in how Americans think about food and health.
Dr. Anna Herby from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine called these changes a step forward, and I couldn't agree more. It's a step towards a future where healthier, more compassionate food choices are normalized.
This is a reminder of the power of science-based advocacy. It shows that change is possible, even in systems as entrenched as the US dietary guidelines. Let's hope these recommendations make it through to the final version.
And if they do, it's not just a win for Americans, it's a win for animals and the planet too. Progress like this gives us hope for a more sustainable and compassionate future. So, Veganuary is just around the corner, Rick, and a new study out of the University of Exeter has revealed something fascinating. Meat eaters who take part in Veganuary are more likely to feel disgusted by meat after giving it up for the month.
That's incredible, Mackenzie. It's not just about abstaining from animal products for 31 days, it's about creating a lasting shift in mindset. The study found that even those who return to eating meat often reduce their consumption significantly after participating in Veganuary.
Researchers suggest this is because taking part in Veganuary helps people resolve the cognitive dissonance between their actions and their belief. Most people agree that cruelty to animals is wrong, yet the majority of meat is produced in factory farms, something 75% of UK adults believe should be banned.
But during Veganuary, people stop avoiding these uncomfortable truths. Without the need to defend eating meat, they start to confront the realities of factory farming and align their actions more closely with their values.
It's also about identity. One study found that after taking part in Veganuary, participants were less likely to identify as meat eaters. Identity shapes our food choices, and seeing yourself as someone who avoids or reduces meat can pave the way for long-term changes.
This research validates what many of us in the vegan movement already knew. Giving people a chance to experience plant-based living, even temporarily, can be transformative.
It's not without challenges though. Veganuary participants often cite difficulties dealing with friends and family or eating out. That's why campaigns like this, which provide support and strategies, are so important.
And the impact is undeniable. Veganuary reports that over 80% of participants plan to permanently reduce their meat and dairy consumption by at least 50%. That's not just a win for the participants, it's a win for the animals, the environment, and public health.
Veganuary started in 2014, inspired by the success of campaigns like Movember, and it's just grown into a global movement. It's helping people realize that plant-based eating isn't just possible, it's enjoyable, more ethical, and aligned with their values.
So if you're listening and you've been thinking about trying Veganuary, now's the time. It's an opportunity to explore a kinder, healthier, and more sustainable way of living. And who knows, it might just change your life.
And even if you're already vegan, Veganuary is a great way to inspire others to give it a try. Let's keep the momentum going and make 2025 the biggest Veganuary yet.
We've saved the most inspiring story for last, Mackenzie. Paul Watson, the legendary anti-whaling activist and founder of Sea Shepherd, has been freed from detention in Denmark and is vowing to end whaling worldwide.
Watson's release isn't just a victory for him, it's a rallying cry for the entire animal rights movement. His determination to stop whaling, especially in places like Japan, Iceland, and Norway, is as strong as ever.
Watson spent 5 months in detention due to a Japanese extradition request, stemming from his relentless efforts to protect whales. But rather than letting that time go to waste, he turned it into an educational campaign, shining a spotlight on Japan's illegal whaling operations and Denmark's pilot whale and dolphin slaughters in the Faroe Islands.
And it's not just activists supporting him. His campaign has garnered global attention. Even French President Emmanuel Macron spoke out for his release. Watson's unwavering commitment to protecting marine life has inspired thousands, including letters of support from all over the world.
What's especially powerful is that Watson isn't backing down. He's vowed to confront Japan if they resume whaling in the Southern Ocean, and he's already planning to oppose Iceland's potential return to whaling in 2025.
And let's not forget the impact Sea Shepherd has already had. Their efforts in the 2000s and 2010s saved countless whales by directly intervening against Japanese whalers in the Southern Ocean. Watson's leadership has shown that activism can make a real, tangible difference.
It's also heartening to hear that public sentiment is shifting, even in Japan, where whale meat consumption has plummeted. Less than 2% of Japanese people eat whale meat. This reinforces what Watson has always said. Whaling isn't about tradition, it's about profit and defiance.
Watson's resolve to protect whales reflects his broader mission, to live in harmony with all species that share our planet. He's setting the stage for a world where whaling becomes a relic of the past, a dark chapter we can finally close.
As we celebrate Watson's release, let's take this message to heart. Every voice, every action, every step we take towards protecting animals matters. Watson's story is proof that persistence and courage can lead to monumental change.
And with Paul Watson back on the front lines, the fight to end whaling worldwide just gained a powerful ally. Here's to a future where no whales suffer at human hands again. As we close out this episode and the year, we want to take a moment to think on what's ahead. 2025 holds so much promise for the vegan movement, a year where compassion, sustainability, and justice will continue to guide us towards a brighter future for all sentient beings.
Veganism is no longer just a trend. It's a revolution in how we view our relationship with the planet and its inhabitants. Together we're building a world where animals are free, our environment is protected, and people thrive on plant-based living.
To all of our listeners and supporters, we cannot thank you enough. Your commitment to this cause, whether through activism, education, or simply choosing kindness every day, makes all the difference.
From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for standing with us. Your voices, actions, and unwavering support gives us hope and strength to keep pushing forward.
As we step into 2025, let's carry this momentum with us. Let's dream bigger, fight harder, and inspire even more people to join the movement for a kinder world.
And of course, we want to wish all of you a happy new year. May 2025 bring you joy, health, and hope. Together we continue to make a difference for the animals, for the planet, and for each other.
Here's to a wonderful year ahead. Thank you for being part of this incredible journey. Stay compassionate, stay active, and of course, stay vegan.
We'll see you in 2025. Until then, take care and keep the flame of kindness burning bright. Thanks for listening to the Vegan Compass podcast, unveiling truths, inspiring change.
Be sure to follow us on social media at @thevegancompass_podcast. See you next time.